So today we're here at this property on Market Street just to run through what's actually happening and how you can find a property and turn it into an HMO on a budget. So we're here in what used to be the lounge. Can you talk me through the financials, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we purchased this 3-bed terrace property, mid-terrace property, for £135,000.
Okay.
About £5,000 for stamp duty and costs. So the deposit was about £30,000 for the purchase. Then the obviously stamp duty, etc. And it's about a £30,000 conversion cost as well.
Right.
The idea is that we're converting to a 5-bed HMO, so we're going to have a look around and you can see some of the works we're halfway through, and I'm sure we'll be able to show some pictures of previously before it was done. We've got some videos we can add as well. But we expect an end valuation of minimum 275, potentially 300,000. So it gives us enough then to refinance. If there's an investor involved, that's an option that we're going to talk about as well. Repay the investor, and then you've got a property then that will generate minimum sort of £1,000, £1,500 per month.
Excellent. So we're in the living room. Do you want to just talk me through what you're doing to it?
Yeah, absolutely. So initially this was the lounge. So this was blocked up. You came into the lounge through the archway here. So we've blocked this up. We've put an ensuite in here. We've removed the fireplace to make the space a bit bigger. Got a really nice big bay window at the front anyway. Quite high ceilings. So we've got the rewire going through. The central heating actually wasn't in bad condition. So we're okay with that. We've just moved some of the piping underground so we can make this doorway. So this will be quite a nice sized double room with ensuite. And you can see the ensuite first fix is just taking place now. If you want to follow me through, I'll show you some other rooms as well.
Okay.
So this is what was the dining room. You had the archway there taking you through. We've now got an ensuite in here. Got a space for a double bed and wardrobe. Fireplace has been removed. We had a glass kind of skylight there as well, which was a little bit dangerous. So we've tiled that on the outside. We've removed the porch at the back. And that's obviously going to be boarded up and skimmed when the room gets skimmed through. So again, we put the first fix electrics in. So each room has 4 double sockets. I think it's 3 that you actually have to have for the HMO standards, but we've got a little bit extra in there just to give them a bit more space. We're also putting in things like the USB ports in the plugs just again, so people have a bit more area for charging and different devices, etc. So we're keeping the head height of the rooms because they're nice big rooms, so it makes sense. There's not a huge amount in the building in terms of structure. It's probably the biggest part is upstairs at the back where we took part of the wall out, which I'll show you shortly.
So talk me through what you've done with this room, because I can see the walls are different and obviously your retro bathroom suite.
Yeah, we've just got that in, flown in from Italy, so quite an expensive suite. You can see the line of brick where the wall originally was. So this was the box room, so quite small for a HMO room as such. So we removed this wall out, and the front door would be there just behind you for the entrance for this room. We've reduced then the size of the bathroom because it's now going to be a double shower with new suites going in. That means that we've got actually quite a right sized room there. So we've got obviously the socket for the bed to go in, space for the wardrobe, cupboard being built already around the boiler, but the big storage in there as well. So it's turned what was quite a small bulky room into something that actually be quite ISO-like, so the plastered and maintained.
So how much do you think it will cost to furnish each room?
I think realistically, with the bed, the wardrobes, a couple of chairs, etc., you're probably £500 to £700 depending on what sort of level we go to and the size of the room and how it fits in.
And who do you anticipate being the average tenant for a room like this?
We're expecting professionals. That's what we've seen, and when we spoke to local agents, with its location, it's close to the train station, and also on motorways, network, etc. The reality is, then you should be able to build a space.
So Steve, with HMOs, you hear things like Article 4 and laws. What kind of things do you need to look out for if you're doing an HMO?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one reason that we chose a property where we could only go 5-bed. The reality of it is, with this property, we could take it to 6-bed because we've got a utility room at the back, which is quite large, and it's got a toilet in as well.
Okay.
We could have kept the utility either in the basement or in the kitchen, but we decided not to kind of cross over to because then there's more regulation involved in it. So planning permission, like say Article 4. Article 4 doesn't cover this particular area, so we're okay there. We didn't need planning permission because, again, we're staying below the threshold. We do need a HMO license, so there are areas we have to adhere to. So things like sizes, things like making sure there's fire alarms that are linked, etc., making sure that there's a certain number of sockets and space, the waste is dealt with and managed. So there's certain criteria that we do need to take and adhere to. So, and it was quite good just speaking to them and finding out what they're looking for. They'll come out and do an inspection, they'll give us a certificate and follow it there. So it's not a huge amount. I know a lot of people do get scared of doing HMOs because they think there's so much legislation, there's so many areas and get tripped up. Again, if you're keeping it to that sort of smaller sized HMO, there's still really good returns there, but you've not got to fight all those barriers or tick all those boxes, if you like.
Got you. So is it just the council that come out? Do you find all that information on the council website?
Yeah, on the council website. So lots of information on there. There's a telephone number as well. So we spoke to them. We invited them out at the beginning. They didn't actually come out because they said, yeah, we know the area, we know the property. These are the criteria that you need to hit. And then once you're done, let us know. We'll come out and check it and then we'll issue you a certificate as well. So
got you.
We're halfway through now. So we're hoping to be done by the end of March, realistically. And then we'll get them back out and to sign it off.
Fantastic. And then building control obviously come and sign off things like this.
Yeah, so building control have come out at the beginning of the project. They've done their inspection. They've told us what they want pictures of. And then again, they're going to come out at the end to make sure that's been delivered. But not a huge amount for building control. It's more, there's a couple of areas where we've had to put fireboard in. Yeah. So they want to make sure that's done. The lintels that have been put in for some of the doorways that have been opened up. So round the corner in the bedroom with the ensuite, making sure the lintels in there. So we've got pictures of that as well. Just providing that information. So again, when they come out on the final check, we get the certificate there as well.
So Steve, if you could just talk me through how you'd find something like this and how you'd also fund it. Yeah,
absolutely. So it's quite funny because there's this massive myth of everything has to be found off market. I'm sure you hear it all the time through sourcing and our network as well. And the reality of it is most properties I've purchased are on Rightmove, and this is exactly the same. So this was on Rightmove. A lady had passed away. I think it had sold originally and they just hadn't been able to get the mortgage on it. It was a couple looking to move into it themselves. So we were able to jump onto it. The agent we built up a great relationship with, so we were speaking to them all the time. They knew the sort of thing we were looking for. For us, it was more about actually the floor plan to make sure we could fit and move in the sort of 5 rooms. We didn't want to go to 6 room because we didn't want to go to the next level of having to get planning and all the additional things that you need for a HMO. So it was more about kind of keeping it small, keeping it to an area that we can manage and we know what's going on. I mean, to give you an example, in this area, they've just announced a £20 million investment into the centre. So that's great for us because for longevity, we know that there's money going into the centre, so there'll be more jobs, etc., etc. Okay. So, yeah.
And with it, what kind of research did you do where it was becoming an HMO? What else did you have to look into?
Yeah, we've pretty much followed the steps that we talk about all the time in terms of we had a number of areas. So it wasn't just this area. It was sort of St Helens, part of Warrington. There were a number of areas where we knew that what the HMO rooms are renting for, what the demand is, what the price of the property is going for per square foot and the size of the property. So we'd already narrowed it down to what areas we're interested in. Right. And it wasn't a case of we just found one straight away. It literally, I think we talked about before, initially we were looking for a flip to do. We found that many people looking at flips that it was difficult to compete with that, especially when you're an investor, because when you come across a flip, you want that profit margin, whereas people are willing to do them, move into themselves and not have that profit margin. So that's very difficult to compete. Whereas things like this, you generally find that your smaller first-time buyers or your house movers won't go into something like this. And for us, it's great because we know we can get that higher valuation at the end of it. So we had our areas. It took us about 6 months to find it, to be honest. It wasn't a case of it just came up straight away or we found it immediately. And that's 6 months of viewing a lot of properties, speaking to a lot of agents, visiting at weekends, putting offers in on properties and getting declined, finding properties that were good and then finding out that there's serious problems with them. So going through that whole process to then end up with, right, we found one finally, we've got it secured, it's at the right price, let's make a move on it.
Fantastic. And what options are there with funding it? Would you use a bridge or source capital?
Yeah, lots of different options available to you. So one of the things that we talk about quite a lot when we're talking to our network is actually people approach us and say, it's difficult for me to get my first one because I need this big deposit or I need this money to do the work. Bridging is a great option. Alternatively, you've also got the investor market as well. So I know within our network, a lot of franchisees have raised money quite quickly through our app and through our email database, etc. And when you actually look at the figures of this, you know, it works really well in terms of you need about 30, 35 grand for your deposit and your fees. You need about 30 grand then for your for the works on the property. So it's about 65 grand in total. So it's not an enormous amount that you've got to borrow off an investor. You can show them the project, they can understand what you're doing. And then with that higher value at the end, it's easy to refinance and get them out and get them paid. And you're left with a property that, you know, even if you max the mortgage on it as much as you can, you're still going to be netting sort of £1,000 a month, which is a great step in your property journey, because not just having that regular cash flow income coming in, but also having the experience of doing a small project. This is quite a relatively small project with putting the ensuites, and a lot of the work in here can be done yourself in terms of stripping it out, painting, decorating. There's lots of little things that you can do yourself, as I'm sure you're aware, and you do on your flips. You will have to bring in professionals for certain areas, but there's a lot that you can save on by doing yourself as well.
Fantastic. There you have it. We can't wait to see this property turn into a profitable HMO at the end.